The Wall Street ends largely higher for the third straight session. Nifty ends above 25,900. Eternal, Tata Steel and ONGC are the top gainers. Midcaps outperform, but banks drag.
BSE reports a strong Q3 on the back of a big rise in average daily turnover and dismisses concerns over the STT hike, denting volumes. The NSE, meanwhile, hopes for a rollback of the transaction tax hike by the government.
Earnings from several mid-caps come as a positive surprise for the street, sparking sharp rallies. Amber Enterprises, Axis Skates Technologies, Bata India, Linde India and Sincera Engineering are among the key gainers.
Hello and welcome to today's edition of Markets Forward, your go-to show where we aim to get you all the key data points to gear up for the next trading day. I'm Vivek Iyer, and with me today is Sonal Bhutra. Sonal, when we started off Midcap Radar around at 1:30 p.m. today, markets were positive but were cooling off from the day's highest point. That particular trend continued. In fact, the banking index ended the day with marginal cuts. Mid-cap and small-cap index both ended the day sharply off the day's high. And the pharma pack was something that saw quite a bout of profit booking, especially in the last hour.
It did. And we do have a lot of earnings that the markets are dealing with as well, right? But the point that markets are off the highs, that was the big story that we are tracking. Yes, third consecutive day of gains on the Wall Street. But some of them, the likes of banking index, PSU banking names, which were the big gainers yesterday, did see some profit booking today. We had the auto index that did really well. Metals were up. But overall, the markets above 25,900 mark came off from the highs of the day. But we do have the market wrap and a lot of stocks that were on our radar today. So here's a lineup of what we have in store for you. We start with the top movers and shakers of the day with Gaurav. BSE rallies on robust third quarter performance. We'll also talk about the textile stocks that slipped after the US cut reciprocal tariffs on Bangladesh exports, while a slew of mid-cap stocks that grabbed the spotlight following their third quarter results. Last but not the least, we delve into the key market events to watch out for tomorrow's trading session. But let's get to the first segment of the day. Gaurav Javalkar is here to talk about the big movers and shakers of the day. Gaurav.
Well, yes, if you look at the market, we have got big movers today, and that was on the back of the numbers. Because first, let's talk about BSE. If you look at the numbers, a very strong set of number, 8% increase on a sequential basis, and that is what drove the market stock price of the BSE up almost more than 6%. We also saw Amber. Actually, this company also reported good set of numbers. The commentary was also good, and as a result, we saw a strong set of performance in terms of the stock performance here as well. Let's also not forget about Edelweiss Finance. Numbers came during the market. If you look at the numbers, net profit that doubled, almost double on a year-on-year basis, and at the same time, there is another investment which is coming up, which is Carlyle Group that is going to invest around 2,100 crores in Edelweiss Nido Home Finance. Now, that is something which market liked, and as a result, we saw a sharp spike in this counter. Other than that, let's also not forget about the quick commerce companies like Zomato and Swiggy. If you look at Eternal, there was another news flow. Mr. Dipinder Goyal is now also elected as vice chairman and non-executive director. That is also something which actually strengthened the stock price. And let's also not forget about some pharma stocks. The MNC pharma pack like GlaxoSmith and Pfizer, we saw a strong set of number and good performance here as well, despite Nifty Pharma being under pressure today. On the flip side, on the negative side, let's also talk about textile names where we saw a sharp sell-off because of the USA and Bangladesh deal. And we saw stocks like Pearl Global, Welspun Living, Gokuldas, all of these stocks were under pressure. And lastly, let's also not forget about the NBFC space. Now, we have seen some rally in these stocks, but today we saw some profit booking in the names like Shriram Finance, Bajaj Finance, Canfin Homes. All of these stocks were down more than 2% in a day today.
Well, thank you so much, Gaurav, for joining us, giving us a list of all of the top movers and shakers of today's trading session. But one particular stock that did stand out today was Exchange. BSE rallied almost 7% after a strong third quarter. The stock's up move was led by a big rise in average daily turnover. The company also dismissed any concerns over the STT hike, denting volume. Vinny Motiwala joins us now with more details. Vinny, take us through the company's robust Q3 performance.
Absolutely. So BSE saw strong gains in today's trading session. Obviously, this came in after they reported their numbers. Strong internals that came in Q3 FY26. Nearly 30% increase in terms of turnover on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Headline numbers were largely much better than what the street was anticipating. A higher regulatory contribution, that was something that dragged the margin. But overall, internals remained very strong. So operating income, let's take the breakthrough. That is up 16%, 1,244 crores. EBITDA, that's up 13%. Margins, slight bit of a contraction, like I mentioned, right, because of those regulatory contributions, higher regulatory contributions, that led to a contraction in terms of margin, 62.5% versus 64.7%. So obviously that was the only thing that was a bit of a blip that came in here. Average daily notional turnover was up by 28%. Average daily premium turnover was also up by 29.7%. So all in all, it was strong in terms of internals, and that kept the stock a buzz.
Oh, yes, it did. But Winnie, a busy day for you. So stay with us. Textile stocks, they took it on the chin after US reduced reciprocal tariffs on products from Bangladesh to 19%. How does the move impact textile exporters in India?
Yes, absolutely. Now, what the US-Bangladesh deal comes in at is the 19% tariff rate is what Bangladesh will be paying for most of its exports, right? Now, for textile, there's a different caveat. 0% tariff comes in for textiles and apparels for Bangladesh if they are using US cotton or man-made fibers, and that has to account to something around the 70% of that cost that comes in. So that is a big caveat that comes in for the 0% tariff. If you're using US cotton and US man-made fiber to manufacture, and you're in Bangladesh, then you will get that 0% tariff. Now, obviously, what analysts are saying that for Indian companies, what does it mean? Bangladesh was always, much higher in terms of contribution market share that came in from Bangladesh to the US versus India, and they had a higher competitive edge as well versus us. This puts us a bit more behind them. Given that our tariff now comes down to 18%, their tariff could be 0 if they're using most of the materials from the US, but not a major impact is what analysts are highlighting. They said that this exemption, one has to understand also this caveat, is not going to be easy to work around as well. For India, obviously now we're starting and looking at more FTAs as well, EU, UK, US, obviously those advantages are also still there for India. So yes, a bit negative, and that's why we're seeing a bit more of a pressure coming in on these stocks today, but still more opportunity in other markets opens up for India, and that is why analysts are saying that is what they'll keep an eye out on.
Thank you so much, Winnie, for joining us and taking us through the details as far as the implications of the US-Bangladesh trade deal is concerned. But to take the discussion forward, we're joined by Jay Thakur of ICICI Securities and Sudeep Bandapadhyay of IndiTrade Capital. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, first up, Jay, let me come across to you. You had a look at the markets today, quite a choppy trading session. You did see the Nifty cool off from the session highs, including the Bank Nifty. Where do you see the markets headed from here on?
Good afternoon to you, Vivek and Sonal. Well, today weekly expiry day, 26,000 strike is where we had the highest call base, right, Vivek? And that is the reason, Nifty saw some profit booking coming from those levels. In fact, it approached those levels, but then both 25,900 and 26,000 strikes, 25,900 on the put side. These two strikes had almost 5 crore plus kind of OI during the day, and because of which it was very much likely, Vivek, that we see the Nifty weekly expiry between 25,900 to 26,000. Right from the start is what was, it was shaping up that way based on the build-up in the option strikes. Now going forward, I think, close beyond 25,800 is clearly indicating that Nifty is inching towards 26,200. So I think that 26,000 levels eventually will be taken off. You see a strong momentum coming in Bank Nifty, which has a huge put writing at the lower side. 60,000 to 60,500 levels, wherein you're seeing immense put writing, is clearly a support for Nifty Bank. The similar is the case for Fin Nifty, wherein you have seen there's hardly any call writing out there. So out and out there is huge put writing out there as well. Broader markets are also performing quite well. It's just the Nifty IT. I think that Vivek, that is the struggling, and that's likely to consolidate within a range of say 38,000 to 35,000 for some time. Apart from that, I think most of the sectors are now looking either to rebound based on short covering the stocks, like in some few of them from Nifty FMCG, Nifty Realty, Defense, all of them are witnessing short covering, and there are few stocks like Cement Pack, Metal Pack. They already have seen a good long build-up, auto for that matter, and they would continue their rally on the upside. If at all there is a good comeback by private sector banks, I think taking off 26,000 should not be a task or a challenge for Nifty.
That point, Jay, and you spoke about a lot of these sectors could see an up move from here, and we have seen massive moves on select mid caps as well. Sudeep, anything that stood out for you? Wanted your specific thoughts, of course, on textiles. How does that get impacted because of these tariff cut that came in from Bangladesh? But other than that, it was a very stock-specific market today.
I think the results did move the market. Look at some of the EMS companies which reported numbers. I think Amber Enterprises numbers were fantastic. We always had a concern regarding the multiples at which some of these EMS companies were being quoted. And the kind of numbers that Amber came up with and the commentary which also accompanied, I think is very, very reassuring. Also, the fact remains that the India-China corridor is opening once again, and these EMS companies will definitely benefit. The big challenge was the multiple. Now, if they can grow at 60-70% on a regularly, I think a multiple of 90 to 100 should not be very difficult to justify. So, under these circumstances, I think we take a lot of comfort from the performance of the EMS companies. Amber Enterprises, the case in point. As far as textiles is concerned, I think definitely it's a challenge. The entire industry was rejoicing after the announcement of the India-US trade deal. But the Bangladesh deal, which has been announced, I think will create some hardship for the industry. Bangladesh getting 0% tariff when they're using the US cotton, I think will definitely create some problems. We, of course, have US, apart from US trade deal, we have EU and UK, and there are also favorable terms for Indian exporters. But this is definitely a bit of a setback. So competition from Bangladesh was always there, and it will remain very, very strong. And I think our textile companies will have to live with that.
Well, Sudeep, from one set of exporters to another, today the pharma pack was in focus. Quite a few earnings that came across, overnight and also over the weekend. Large M&A action also in focus. Any view on Zydus Life Sciences as well as Aurobindo? Both of these stocks saw significant profit booking in the session today.
Well, I think as far as pharma is concerned, I've been cautious for quite some time, and I remain cautious with it. While a lot of good statements have come from US and they haven't disturbed this industry with tariff or some such thing, but the fact remains that they are significantly susceptible to the global news flows and what's happening as far as the US market is concerned, the approvals, etc. I'm very cautious as far as this industry is concerned. I prefer pharma companies having significant domestic business. Domestic pharma is growing at 25 to 30% CAGR. So companies having domestic business need to be looked at. Amongst pharma companies, we do like Sun Pharma. The potential acquisition which they are talking about in US can be a game changer. They have always grown through acquisition. And even this acquisition, if it materializes, I think will be a game changer for Sun Pharma.
Take that point. Thank you for explaining that to us so well. But we were talking about mid-caps, right? And a slew of stocks from the mid-cap space came out with their Q3 numbers. Ria Bhatia is here with a synopsis of all those big names. Ria.
Well, yes, Samvardhana Motherson has reported its Q3 earnings. The stock is up roughly 5% on the back of this. Revenue has seen an increase of roughly 13.5%, and even the EBITDA has increased by 13% to 3,043 crores in this quarter. Jyoti CNC as well has reported its numbers. Revenue has gone up by roughly 28%, and margins have come in at roughly 27% versus 25% in the last quarter, but the stock is down roughly 3.5% at this moment. For Edelweiss Financial Services as well, that has reported a good set of numbers. Net profit sharply up at 264 crores versus 125 crores in Q3 of last year. Even the revenue has seen a sharp increase, coming in at rupees 4,404 crores. And in fact, the company has also announced that Carlyle Group is going to be investing roughly rupees 2,100 crores in the company, and the stock is reacting positively to that, up roughly 9% on the back of that. Wakefit has also jumped up by 8%. The net profit this time around has come in at 32 crores versus a loss of 2.5 crores in Q3 of last year. EBITDA also sharply up at around 60 crores versus just 20 crores in Q3 of last year, and margins have also expanded to 14% versus just 5% in the previous year. For Amber Enterprises as well, this one also reported quite a good set of numbers yesterday. Revenue has gone up by roughly 38%. Margins have also expanded by 90 basis points on a year-on-year basis, and this time around the company has reported a net loss of roughly 9.3 crores versus a profit of 37 crores in Q3 of last year, but this was impacted by exceptional items of 112 crores in this quarter. For Sincera Engineering, good set of numbers here as well. Revenue has seen an increase of around 25%. This is the highest ever quarterly revenue for the company, both in the auto and the non-auto segments. And EBITDA margins are also at a multi-quarter high of 18.1%, and even the international business has seen an expansion of 60% on a year-on-year basis. For Axis Cades as well, good set of numbers. The stock has hit an upper circuit for the second consecutive session today. Revenue has gone up by roughly 25%. Net profit also seeing an increase of around 87% on a year-on-year basis, and EBITDA margins have expanded by almost 360 basis points. The last stock is BSE. That is also up around 6% in trade today. The average daily notional turnover of the company has gone up by 28% on a sequential basis, and even the average daily premium turnover has seen an increase of almost 30% sequentially.
Well, thank you so much, Ria, for joining us and giving us a list of all of the stocks on the broader end of the markets that made the sharp moves today. Well, Jaitakar, one particular stock I'd like to take your view on is a name from the EMS space, which is Amber Enterprises. Last couple of trading sessions, the stock has moved up almost 10% from the recent lows. Any view on this particular name? And within the EMS pack, most of these names have taken quite a bit of a beating from the recent 52-week highs. Which name looks good?
Absolutely. This sector, in fact, has witnessed a good amount of selling pressure made with PG Electroplast or Amber. And Amber has seen a decent short covering in last few days. I would say the kind of move it has shown beyond the levels of 6,500, to 7,500 almost, has been 1,000 points in last 3 days. And I think this can further continue if it manages to hold out to 7,500 levels. Now, if 7,500 levels are taken off and if it sustains about those levels, then I think that this short covering can take this stock to 8,300 levels as well. But then PG Electroplast is one stock which I think can see some short covering from these levels, at least until the levels of 650. That's a key level to watch out for. I mean, if it manages to take off 650, then there could be some further short covering till 720 as well. So yes, this sector itself has witnessed a good amount of selling, or maybe shorting, I would say. And Amber has been relatively far better performer. And beyond 7,500, it can inch to 8,300, as I said. But PG Electroplast is also one stock which one can look at it from the point of view of short-term short covering.
Take that point. Sudeep, comment on this. We spoke about Samvardhan Motherson. Also, the auto index did well today. What's your take on the auto space in general? Anything that stands out?
I always like auto ancillary more than auto, and I think I continue to maintain my view. Some of the results which have come out from Samvardhan Motherson, Sona BLW, I think it's definitely good. They are good companies. They have established their businesses all over the world, and they are connected to global OEMs. And I think with this tariff, all this imbroglio over the tariff getting resolved will definitely help both these companies in a big way. I think the transition which is happening from ICE to EV will help the ancillary companies increase their components per car, and their business volume will increase. That's what we strongly believe. So, whether it's a Samvardhan Motherson or a Sona BLW, Lumax Auto, which came out with numbers, I think all these do look definitely good from a long-term perspective.
Well, thank you so much, Sudeep, as well as Jay, for joining us on the show, giving us your view, both fundamental as well as technicals on various stocks that we discussed today. Well, with that, it's time for a short break. We'll get you the top corporate voices along with the key market events to watch out for on the other side.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Markets Forward. Let's take stock of all the corporate voices of the day. The management of Max Healthcare told CNBC-TV18 that seasonality and insurance issues-related challenges were now behind the company. While addressing concerns around CGHS pricing, the company said certain oncology drug prices were capped under the scheme, which has impacted margins. The management also noted lower seasonality and higher average revenue per occupied bed in Q3 versus Q2, driven by a higher share of complex cases. The company expects a margin benefit of around 200 crore rupees from the revision of CGHS rates, though a GST impact of nearly 60 crore rupees could partially offset gains.
Real estate developer DLF plans to stay debt-free. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, MD Ashok Kumar Tyagi said that the company, which has nearly 10,000 crore rupees locked in its RERA account, will have significant cash from FY27 onwards. Meanwhile, he added that sales from the Dahlias project has resumed and will show up in Q4. Tyagi also said DLF's 2,000 crore rupees senior living project is in the final stage of approvals.
Chalet Hotels delivers in the third quarter. The company's top brass told CNBC-TV18 that after a weak January, business had picked up in February. The management also highlighted that their 9-month consolidated performance remains strong, showing healthy growth across operations. The company is also eyeing double-digit revenue per average room growth over the next few years.
And before we wrap, we bring you the key market events to watch out for. Gaurav joins us once again. He's standing by the big wall with the key events to watch out for tomorrow's trading session.
Well, as for tomorrow, Japanese investors are going to take a breather because Japanese market is closed because it's their foundation day. But apart from that, let's not forget about the meeting between Prime Minister of Israel and Prime Minister of America. They're going to meet in the White House and they will be discussing the Iran negotiation. Now, this is a key thing to watch out for. Let's also not forget about the OPEC monthly data that we will be getting. And it is really crucial to see, given that if you look at the oil prices, we have seen some kind of pressure building up in the oil prices. From the US market, we will be getting a key three data points. First is inflation rate, non-farm payroll and unemployment rate. All of these data points will be closely tracked by the market. Let's also not forget about the Boeing's announcements for monthly sales of orders and deliveries for the month of January. And from the earnings point of view, we have got a few known companies which will be reporting their numbers in US market, which is T-Mobile's US, McDonald's Corporation and Shopify. From the Indian market, we have a couple of stocks who will report their earnings in the likes of Mahindra & Mahindra, Amara Raja Batteries, Max Financial Services, Ramco Industries. All of these stocks will be on our radar. And lastly, let's also not forget about the meeting between Commerce Minister and the exporters, which is going to happen in Delhi. Now, this is really important given that macroeconomic developments which are happening specifically with India and other countries around us. So let's watch out for all these events and see if they have any grip on the market tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Gaurav, for joining us with all those important events to watch out for in tomorrow's trading session. But with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Markets Forward. We'll be back with more news and updates on the other side.